The Communication of the Brain, a documentary by Julia Kennedy. Humans communicate with each other in many ways, and over the years, these methods of communication have changed and grown. Humans have created many machines and variations of the telegraph and phone to speak to one another, but communication can be limited down to the smallest part of communication, which starts within ourselves. In order to communicate with others, there is something inside us that controls us and allows us to speak and act in ways that expresses our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. The magical thing that controls these actions is called the brain. The human brain controls our ability to communicate with other people effectively and is the most important form of communication. The brain communicates to different parts of our body to cause us to react or interact in a certain way to explain how we feel. Our brain makes us send neurotransmitters to certain parts of our bodies to make us feel pain or fear or happiness. The neurotransmitter sends a signal from the terminal buttons of one neuron to the dendrites of the next neuron. The signal goes down the dendrites past the soma, down the axon terminal, and then out the terminal buttons into the synapse to reach the next neuron. Certain issues when it comes to neurotransmitters are degradation, which is when an enzyme isn't recognized by the receptor, or diffusion, when the neurotransmitter drifts away, or reuptake, when the neurotransmitter is taken back up and isn't released. Some neurotransmitters are more popular than others. This includes epinephrine, also referred to as adrenaline, is our fight-or-flight response. It is produced in stressful situations where we can see an increased heart rate and increased blood flow. Norepinephrine is our concentration. It affects our attention and is directly activated in the brain. GABA is a calming neurotransmitter that calms down the firing of neurons in the central nervous system. Having high levels can improve our focus, while having low levels can actually cause anxiety. Acetylcholine is a learning neurotransmitter that is involved in learning, thought, and memory. When we are younger, acetylcholine helps us with our motor development. Dopamine is a pleasure neurotransmitter that is involved in the feelings of pleasure, motivation, and movement. People tend to repeat behaviors and actions that lead to the release of dopamine, and this can also cause addiction. Glutamate is our memory neurotransmitter. It is involved in our learning, memory, regulating our development, and regulating the creation of new neural connections. Serotonin is a very well-known neurotransmitter that is associated with our mood. It contributes to our well-being and happiness. It helps our sleep cycle and helps to regulate our digestive system. It is also affected by exercise and our light exposure. Endorphins are another very popular neurotransmitter. They are known to be released during exercise, excitement, and sex. They are produced to help our well-being, cause euphoria, and reduce pain. We also have adenosine, which suppresses arousal and improves sleep, histamine, which is related to allergic reactions, and finally oxytocin, which helps you to recognize and bond with other people. These neurotransmitters are the main controls of our emotions. Humans have evolved over the years to be able to produce these transmitters, making us able to sense when we should feel a certain way. These clues allow for humans to be able to communicate because we have our neurotransmitters released when our body realizes that the transmitters need to be released, whether it is because of our own good or for the realization of another body having their transmitters released. This is that feeling of feeling sad because someone else is sad. Our body reacts to those emotions and causes an action. Our brain has many parts, but is mainly split up into the parietal lobe, frontal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe, cerebellum, and the brainstem. Our frontal lobe controls our problem-solving skills, our emotional traits, our judgment, our ability to speak, and voluntary motor ability. This basically means it is the part of the brain that does a lot of the hard thinking. The parietal lobe controls our spatial abilities, sensations, reading, and the ability to know our right from our left side. The temporal lobe oversees understanding language, working on our behavior, our memory, and our hearing. The occipital lobe controls our ability to see and our color perception. The brainstem controls our involuntary actions and is what makes life so much easier for humans. It controls things such as our breathing, our temperature, digestion, alertness, and swallowing. Finally, the cerebellum handles our coordination, balance, and fine muscle control. The brain does all these actions and actually uses up about 20% of the energy that we consume from food. The parts of our brain communicate with each other, with our nervous system, and with our endocrine system in order to communicate with our body and allow us to act and behave in certain ways to communicate with other people and to live our day-to-day lives. So in the end, the brain is a great source of communication and is the cause for other sources of communication that you might see.